Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Healing Together. Guest is Lindsay.
Hi, thank you for asking me to come on.
Yeah, no problem. And what is your YouTube handle?
Oh, it's Recover from Addiction.
Recover from Addiction.
Yep.
And that link is in the description box below after you get done. Go sub.
Yes, please. I appreciate it.
I'm very excited about this because I haven't really had like deep discussions with people who are in recovery, like how we're about to get in deep in this.
I love talking about it though, so I'm down. And once I heard a little bit about your story, what you told me, I'm like, ooh,
Yeah, because I thought it would be a very much needed conversation from our different perspectives. You were a parent who's in recovery. I unfortunately had to parent my parents who were both addicts. So I don't know your particular story, like totally. So I'm sure it's very different from what my parents went through. My dad was an alcoholic and my mom was a drug addict. But they were still in my life, even though I didn't live with them. They still were in and out of my life, which is weird to think about because it's like, should they have stayed away?
That's a good point.
Because I saw a lot of stuff that children shouldn't see, unfortunately. My life began in a drug den, which I didn't even know that's where we lived. I didn't know like the first few years of my life very much before I went with my grandparents. But with that, what is your story with your addiction? When did you start? Like, give me the juicy details.
I'll give you a little run through. So I was a really good kid, teacher's pet, so it was really out of character for me once I hit, I was like 15, the first time I drank, 16. And the first time I drank, I got kicked out of high school and I had to go to an alternative school, a bad kids school, where I learned more bad kids stuff. And my parents were great, and I never saw them do drugs or drink. So it was like my dad was 19 years sober before he relapsed when I was 21. So that was like 15 years ago now. That's just crazy. Sober again. But so I knew he was like that. Come to find out, when he did relapse, we're exactly alike the way that we drink. Like very, very scary. Like I became a blackout drunk, and then I moved on to other drugs, pills, and I don't want to say it on here, but eventually all of them, all the hard stuff, and went to rehab, and I went to jail about 10 times and prison, and I wanted to stop.
How old were you when you went to jail the first time?
18. So the span of 18 to 23 was it. Yeah, so that was like my time of like jail and prison. So in all that time, it was like 10 times. So like I was getting in trouble like a lot, and I couldn't stop it because every time I drank, I mean, something bad would happen. Whether I got arrested, I went to the hospital, I went to the psych ward a lot.
Yeah, I kind of understand a little bit of that because when I was drinking, I didn't realize that I had even just a mild issue with it. I thought I was fine. I thought, well, I thought I was in control of it. But it turns out that I'm the type of person that it's because of my anxiety. I don't know how to stop once I start going. And I would like go in a bar and be like, I'm only going to have one drink. And then 4 drinks later, I'm like fighting trees outside. So I call it becoming Irish. I became like a little Irish boxer.
Oh my gosh.
I would get too drunk. And so I realized there was one night that I was living with like 6 roommates during college, and I came home so drunk. I punched my best friend in the face with poison. And then I just started trying to fight people in my house. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to ruin friendships. Like,
yeah. It's weird, right? Because it's not you. And that's how I became like a totally different person. And I would like randomly want to fight people, mostly guys, big guys. Don't know why. I think I had a lot of anger underneath and trauma. And so like I had this anger that came out when I was drunk that I couldn't keep at bay because I'm not normally like that, except I'm intoxicated. I am like, I mean, yelling, you know, and just being crazy. So
yeah. How did your parents deal with your addiction?
Not well. I mean, well for them, but not well because of what I put them through. But my mom was already grieving my death before she thought I was going to possibly pass away because of how often I was ending up in these situations that were extremely dangerous. You know, like driving drunk and I was with blackout drunk.
Oh God, yeah. Like I don't even understand how I never hurt myself or anybody else because I also grew up in a small town. So really everybody, all the teenagers drove and drank. I knew many people who wrapped their cars around trees because we had a lot of like windy side roads or like no lights. So if you're drunk, there's no lights, you know, on the street and it's windy and there's nothing but woods, you're going to lose it.
That's
yeah, it is scary. And I mean, I had one really scary night where I apparently did call a friend to come get me, but I had driven from my friend's house to a convenience store. And I don't even know how I made it out of there because I was literally blackout drunk behind the wheel. And I woke up in my friend's house and I didn't even remember calling him. And he was like, no, you called me and I couldn't understand you. And you told me where you were and I came and got you. And I was like, I'm glad that in my, you know, crappy state that I called someone. I realized, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't drive like this.
Yeah. Thank gosh.
And I did dabble with drugs. I was a straight edge kid for a long time because of my mom. Even like now I smoke tons of weed. But back then, because she forced me to smoke weed with her at 12. 12 was the first time I smoked weed. I like became super against all of it. Like even my friends who smoked weed, I'm like, you guys can, I don't care. But no, not for me. It wasn't until like 18, 19 when I was at my most depressed. I had gotten out of a mental hospital and everything. And I started doing drugs. I actually started doing it. I mostly didn't do everything. I stayed away from the really hard stuff, but you know, pills, you know, that kind of stuff. And yeah, E was my favorite.
Yeah, I remember.
And I had a boyfriend who had moved away at the time because it was like we were 19 years old. He was going to college somewhere else. He came home to visit me and never seen me like this before. And I couldn't hold a conversation. And then he looked at me and goes, I didn't think you were going to turn out like your mother. Woke me up.
Whoa. Yeah, like a holy cow.
I was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. I cannot go down that path. Because I always looked at her as something, like she was the perfect role model of something not to become. Like I had this blueprint of like, I don't want to be like my parents. And then I started doing it. And it was because I was so depressed, I literally didn't care if I passed away. And because all my friends were, you know, again, small town, nothing to do except for go to the mall, go downtown, do drugs and drinking.
Yeah.
And so all my friends were like that. And then around 21 years old, I really woke up and I was like, I don't like this town. I don't like these people. They suck. They are not good friends. This is toxic. And I moved 3,000 miles away within 3 months. So like around 22, 23, I moved out of Virginia to Seattle because I basically looked around at everybody and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like any of it. Like, I need to start over.
Good for you.
And I mean, unfortunately, I moved with the wrong person, but I moved on and I'm okay now. That was a long time ago, 2005.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But yeah, like, when did you ended up getting pregnant? Were you still on drugs or were you?
I got married. Well, I got married when I was 3 months pregnant, but
okay.
I got married in Vegas at the Little White Chapel. Oh, it was so funny because we were going to Vegas. And my dad was like, why don't you guys get married? And I was like, oh, I wasn't really planning on getting married for a while. The kid was planned. Like we were trying to get pregnant, but I was
okay.
Yeah, that was on purpose. I found out I was pregnant on like Mother's Day or something. I remember, and I was like, this is cool. But I got sober originally when I was 24. I had like just turned 24.
Okay.
I went to prison when I was 23. I got out, I used, and then I went to rehab because I thought I was not going to use after prison, but come to find out I didn't really understand addiction until I went to rehab. And then
I
understood that I can't moderately use things, and
I mean, that's why people get addicted, because sometimes there is no moderation depending on the drug.
Exactly. And I was delusional, and thought that I could. Sorry, she's just creeping around. But yeah, so he was, we had relapsed together. My husband and I were both entering counselors out of rehab. Well, he was more like in charge of all the clients, and like he was totally opposite of me, like just like take charge and this and that. And I was more like clinical side, and we worked together, lived together. It was a lot. And then when we relapsed together, we couldn't get clean together, and I ended up leaving him. He went to jail, and I divorced him while he was in jail. And I made it so he couldn't just come steal my kid. I mean, he didn't even want to come see Silas, but I still made sure that I paid all the money and made sure that there were measures in there. So if he ever wanted to come around, he had to be clean. I said, don't ever come in and out of his life. I said, either come in and be sober or stay out and do what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think my grandparents would have preferred if my parents both stayed away.
Probably.
But it was because of me, because I would beg to see my parents.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
Silas is doing that, is like asking about him now. And I'm like, I don't know. And I just realized that I just realized he's married. And I'm friends with her on Facebook. And I'm like, I didn't realize I was. Yeah. I have like either like 6,000 6,000 followers on there. I don't know
everyone.
Hi. So I didn't even like realize it. And I must have, I don't know, maybe I requested her. I just don't remember. But she, I saw that he had 2 babies after he paid. I mean, there's a little bit of child support that he pays, but not much. I don't know. I mean, I had no idea what he's doing. I still
don't know that you and the child exist.
Oh yeah. Okay. So he left when he was 1. I divorced him when he was 1. Because,
and he hasn't been in his life at all since?
He did when he got clean again, when Silas was 3. So for a 3-month span, he had come over 3 times. And that was it. And then he got a girlfriend and he didn't come over.
Yeah.
It was like done. But I was like, good, stay away, because he was still drinking, and I don't know what else. He got me into really heavy stuff that I don't blame him at all. I'm just saying it as a matter of fact, because it's crazy how I would say I would never do that stuff, and then it became a reality because that was what he had done growing up. And his
Mhm.
mother got used with him, introduced him to drugs. And so I hated her. She eventually died of a drug overdose.
Mhm.
I was very scared that she was, had to deal with her and wanting to be around Silas because they're like hardcore addicts, and it scared me. And I
And
was too doing it at the time, but I didn't
yeah.
want to be. I never wanted to. I never thought that I would stay like that. You know what I mean? I always knew that I'm not gonna stay using. I'm gonna get sober again. Um,
And have your parents been helping you with
oh yeah,
Silas?
yeah, they're really close. Silas kind of brought us all together. So my parents got
Aw.
divorced when I was 21. And yeah, I was 21. And then I'm 36 now, and he's almost 8. And so my dad started coming around more and being around my mom, and they became okay with each other, and they talked. They still talk a little bit here and there, but not too much. But, you know, my dad will come over like once a week and see him, and same with my mom has him right now for the week for 2 days. So it's like he loves going over there too. We lived with my mom while it was just me and him, because I
Mhm.
haven't been with anybody since, um, in a sense of like a real relationship of like living together
Right.
and everything. So I haven't been on our own. It was with my mom. And so he's really used to my mom and vice versa. So they're like buddies. And so she
Cute.
loves to have him over. Yeah. So they have a really good relationship. And that's really important to me. It's really,
Yeah. It's really important to have a support system too. Whereas, like with my mom, I never really thought my grandparents did enough to help her.
really what happened. Like,
Um,
did they just kind of wipe their hands?
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I don't blame them in one sense because one, they didn't know how, I mean, what parent knows how to deal with their 16-year-old on drugs? Like
no idea.
she had like straight A's. She was a great student. Like she was always super sweet. And when they moved, when she was entering high school, she just got in with the wrong crowd. And so, she was doing the typical like stealing money, stealing stuff to pawn
Mhm.
until they kicked her out. And she ended up emancipating. I actually have a news story. It never happened in that town before, so they wrote up a whole ass article in our newspaper about my mom at 17 emancipating herself.
Wow, that's wild.
And
Wow.
so unfortunately, having a kid at 18, technically being homeless, she was bouncing around all over the place. And eventually she moved close to my neighborhood. So I could literally just ride my bike down the street to her house. I think around middle school. I think I was middle school age. Yeah, because that's when the weed incident happened.
Mhm.
We it's weird because as much as like I hate it seeing her like that and having to like kind of parent her, I also saw who she was when she was sober. And I think that's why I could have more compassion for
Mhm.
her. Whereas my grandparents, I felt like they just were done with it. They didn't want to understand her or do an intervention. They just, I don't know, gave up.
I get it. It's almost like a way of protecting themselves and probably protecting you. They probably had no idea what to do, and
Yeah.
that scares me. Obviously, my kid's only 8 right now, but that's a very real reality for everybody for their kid, and to fall into addiction. So, my parents, my parents were enabling me a lot. And so
Mm-hmm.
when they let me go, that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm all alone. I don't want to be alone. I want to get better. And I want my parents to be there. I love my parents. And it helped me get sober. So I've seen it both ways. And I've seen parents smother their kids because their kids are making terrible decisions and they're scared for them. And I have a lot of clients like that. And then I still don't like to tell them, hey, you're the boundaries, you're catching them every time that they're falling. And that's going to keep them thinking there's always this net there that they can do whatever they want. That's what happened with me. And so when they realize that there's very real consequences, and it sounds like that's what happened with your mom, like going through it on her own.
Yeah, so like my mom and dad met, I think I was basically an accident. He was a bit older than her. She was 18. And when my grandparents took custody of me, they basically split up. They never got legally divorced, but they split up. And he lived close by, like 5-minute drive. But here's the weird part about that I still have like a hard time grappling with is I would occasionally see him when I played softball because he lived next to the park that we played softball at. And I thought he was coming to see me. It turns out he was drunk and just walking around and it would happen to see me.
Really? Oh, wow.
And I found out when I was an adult that he had told my grandparents that he didn't think he could be a good role model. So he was just going to not be around. He still would give me gifts. And if I asked him to hang out, he never canceled on me. But finding that out when I was an adult was such a weird shock. Like he literally wanted to stay away from me because he wasn't a good role model. Like he didn't even want to try.
I felt that before, to where I thought I'm being selfish by wanting to I don't know. It's a weird thing because you are better off. The kids are better off without having someone actively using near them, no matter what.
Yeah.
It scares me, a parent fighting for them too, but I get how if that was my parent, I would feel very conflicted about it. I wouldn't know how to feel. Like that's a very weird situation,
Yeah, and with my mom, she was fighting my grandparents for visitation.
Okay. See, it's hard to like reconcile because I've been both ways, and he was under 1, so
yeah, and I was being fought for up until like, I don't know, I was 8 or 9.
Really?
So I was very well aware, and I came to the court the last time we all went to the courthouse. My mom just didn't show up. So I thought, well, that was her giving up on me.
Really? Did you ever hear from her after?
Well, yeah, because she stayed in my life after that, but she kept telling me that she thought I'd be better off with my grandparents, so therefore that's why she didn't show up to court.
Interesting.
But it wasn't just that. It was like she didn't show up, and I didn't see her for a really long time or didn't hear from her. So I was like, is she dead? Like, what the
Yeah, that's
this is another thing is like once her and I weren't living near each other, I would make her call me once a week. So I knew that she wasn't dead. Sometimes she would forget, but that is like a real reality when you're your parent. You're well aware of drugs and what the addiction can do and that they could die from it.
I can only imagine. Hearing you say that now, it helps me even, just because, now I'm a parent, but I've also been on the other side as a kid, as an addict, obviously. And so it helps me to hear that, like
Have you talked to Silas about addiction at all?
a little bit. Yeah. And so, because he's been asking about his dad, and he's like, where's Ian or whatever? Where does he live? I'm like, it's kind of far away. He lives like an hour or an hour and a half away. And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. I really don't. And we looked him up online, and like I said, his new wife or whatever, he also has another kid that's older than Silas, which the same thing that happened with me and Silas, but they weren't married. It was just, and she went on to have a whole bunch more kids, but and he's not allowed to go over there because he was on drugs. And the same thing happened, and I was around, and he blamed it on my baby mama. My baby mama doesn't want me around. And it's like, no, dude, you're not doing well. Like, you know what I mean? Even sober though, why should you have to make amends? Like, you need to like prove that you are sober and doing the right thing before she's just let him.
You chose to keep yourself sober for your kid.
Yeah. The thing is too, though, is even the love of my kid, though, I can see how I couldn't stop just based on that. I don't know why. I guess I did stop, obviously for them, but I also stopped for myself, which is ultimately for them too, for him too. So I don't know how that really plays in there, but I know that when parents do that, it's not because they don't love their kids. It's that the addiction is so very strong. It's like so crazy how strong it is to where,
and unfortunately you need to have a support system of some kind in order to get clean. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I don't see anybody on their own getting clean. Like, I mean, with my mom, at least she went from, I feel like I am defending her.
It's okay.
But like, she went from like getting like the hardcore street drugs to doctor shopping. So she was still using, but in a very different way. Yeah. It was like pill popping or pill cocktail mixing. Like, even after she died, and I was in her house.
You were?
She just had like this huge Ziploc bag full of her pills. It's almost like she got her prescriptions and then just dumped them all into a bag.
Oh my.
And unfortunately, drugs is what did ultimately end her life, but it was an accident because she had had surgery and they gave her Oxycontin.
Wow. That's wild.
And back surgery is hardcore. So she said she was going to have someone help her be careful with them. But also I feel like she was 46. So I feel like when you do drugs from like 18 to 40, like,
yep,
your body is breaking down. Your body is broken. So almost any little thing can just like tip it over the edge.
Absolutely. You're so like fragile. I had talked about it too. Like when I had even just done those, the benzos, those pills, my body became so weak. I couldn't balance for like a month. Like, it was very weird how they affect you. But so she was a victim of the opioid crisis, it's so sad. That's what happened with my ex-husband's mother. She had an OD, and we weren't together. Me and Ian weren't together, but I was still like, well, that's Silas's grandma. It's so sad, and drugs. Anytime someone, the drugs though, I just think like you can't live old and you just can't last that long. Those drugs are so hard. They're so hard. Like, you're like at 36 now, I'm so old. Like, I'm not so old, but I mean, in drug years, like, you can't, it's like, I'm not a young kid anymore that didn't get hung over or something like that. Like I really pay the price. My body can't handle it, which it shouldn't. It's not normal,
Yeah.
Drugs
Yeah.
But yeah.
So when I was like in your live, I think last night,
Or the
when
night
you were talking to a friend,
it was last night.
You guys started talking about like the definition of like addiction, like the fact that in the DSM-5 they listed it as kind of like a disease. But I don't really think of it as a disease that someone can't help and that they need a cure from. Like it just feels weird to call it a disease. I consider it a condition.
Ooh, I like that.
You're creating a condition because like conditions use treatment. There's usually not a cure for a condition, right? So I guess wording wise, like I even got in a fight with my therapist over it. And she was like defending my mom. And I was like, I don't want to defend her. What?
Oh my goodness.
Well, but yeah, I consider it like a condition because like it is a choice. So you're making the choice to do the thing, but then the choice you have made is incredibly hard to break.
Right. The thing is though, like
I don't understand what it's really doing to the mind and body to make it so like
it's hijacking it.
Yeah, hijacking. It's like almost like you're totally not in control, but you've also are in control because you've made that choice to do that. It's not like something that just happened to you.
Right, exactly. I mean, because I could go out tomorrow and choose to go back and say, hey, I need to get more of those because I'm thinking or, like I'm depressed or something. I don't know, anxious, which we all are, right? And so I could say whatever and go get whatever. But so it is a choice ultimately, I believe. And I get a lot of pushback from it. And I am licensed as a counselor in the state of Florida. So I don't even know how the curriculum, and I have like the book here, the curriculum is not just the disease model. Thank God that it recognizes that. But it says there are many, it's a biopsychosocial disease. Okay, I can get down with that. Or not disease, maybe illness. I don't know what they call it. I don't think they say disease, a biopsychosocial condition. Maybe they do say condition. I don't remember. I need to find this out and then tell you. But I don't think it's in our genes, but it's awfully weird that my dad used the same way that I did. Like we're just terribly extreme and just like mean alcoholics.
But do you think we are prone, like certain people are prone to addiction?
I think that if you have been addicted to something before, you're absolutely prone to something else being addicted to it. But I don't know if you're prone to it. They do say that there's, what is it? A personality gene.
Yeah. Like I was always told growing up that I have to be careful because both my parents are addicts. And I was like, what is that, like genetically a thing? I never understood that. And I don't even know do scientists even know? Have they studied that far?
They don't agree. Nobody agrees on what it is. And so even in my college classes, I did my I took addiction studies I did a whole year of like addiction studies, and classes were different from each other. I'll tell you what. And they made us do research in almost every class. And I came away more confused because I learned more and I was like, that seems possible. Wow, that's crazy. Oh, wow. So what I had been learning in AA was completely different than what I was learning, with the research. But then there would be people that would say, this research paper shows that AA is effective, the most effective. And it really doesn't show that. That's not really the conclusion of the studies. I guess you can conclude that if you're not looking at others and you're not in your but there's a
Yeah. Also, like AA doesn't work for everybody.
right.
And it basically it's a bit culty.
It is. It is.
The dude who started it, he had a friend who he got in a fight with that was also like, I guess, an addiction counselor. I can't remember if he was an actual addiction counselor or just wanted to work with people who had addiction.
I can tell you the that started AA.
Yeah.
Dr. Bill or Dr. Bob, he was a proctologist, and Bill, he was like a stock market broker cheating on his wife, kind of. He for real.
Because one dude split off and started Synanon, which actually is a cult, and he took like some of the stuff from AA, but turned it into very psychological torture.
So it wasn't Dr. Bill or Bob. I wonder who that was then. Look it up real quick and see if you can find. That's interesting. I was going to watch that. I wonder if it was.
So Bill W. and Bob Smith are the founders of AA, but they had like, hold on, who did?
Or other ones that were like right underneath them. Maybe that was like that. You know, like the man on the bed. There's a picture. They call it the man on the bed, and it's Bill and Bob. It's an illustration. It's Bill and Bob, and then there's bed. And he was like the third one, and his name was Bill as well. This is how this story goes. And so I learned all that history, but it's Marty Mann was a woman in AA that pushed to get the disease model.
His name is Charles Dietrich.
Huh.
There is they put out a documentary on Hulu called The Synanon Fix.
Oh yeah, I heard of this. I think
so the dude took stuff from AA and then also took stuff from like the war and how they tortured people psychologically and like came up with this cult, and it's considered one of America's most dangerous cults.
What?
Because of all the psychological torture that they did, and also Scientology took some of the Synanon stuff. Like a lot of cults end up taking those things. Like every cult ends up like taking things from another thing. Same thing with religion. They're like, no, I want to cherry pick this part and start my own religion. That's how you get all these groups.
Isn't that interesting how that works out like that? And it's so similar. And you're like, how did this happen?
And then when a cult or, high control group gets raided, they end up rebranding as something different. So you think that the original group is gone, but they're actually not.
Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy is so like in the recovery community, there's a lot of people that fight, and like I would be one of those people because I like to argue apparently. Or whatever. I just find myself in these situations often. Like on Twitter a lot of times this would happen. I know that sounds geeky. On Twitter this would happen, but there's just such a big group of people, and there's like the people that are all pathways, and then there's the people that are the AA, and they're like non-recovered Lindsay. I went through AA though, and I was like one of those people that was like, this is the way. Like I was like a big book thumper, that's what they call it, and kind of culty, and I don't like it. And I've never been like that since, and I don't like anybody like that.
Yeah. Also, I don't like how some of these recovery programs have so much religious stuff.
A lot,
like,
yeah.
Why do we lump those together?
I don't know, but people are court ordered to AA, and I don't think they should be, because of, even though it's not religious to say higher power, there's a huge debate about it, but there's something they want to say, oh, it's not a religious program, it's spiritual, but really, where did it come from? It came from the Oxford group, which was a religious group.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're Christian. I don't know what type or anything like that, but the steps, there was like Bill took the steps from there and just changed them. and he added more steps. And so, well, it came from, that's where he just changed the God thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, he does have God in there. So what am I talking about? That God could and would if he were sought. You know, you have to say the Lord's Prayer at the end of every meeting. I mean, some have changed it. The book is still the same. I have the big book right here. Look at this. This is how
nice.
I mean, it's crazy, right? But like, I stopped going, personally for my recovery, and I don't tell clients this. I don't tell them that I stopped going or that I ever really went. I don't really tell them much about my story at all because it's not how you really counsel. But in my own story, I found that it wasn't the most effective for me, and a lot of people relapse in the rooms a lot, and they take each other out, and you need that. You need to like meet other sober people somewhere though. So I like Smart Recovery personally, and I started becoming a facilitator for them, which is just like therapy, but it's in a group setting kind of. And so I do like that a lot, but there really aren't enough alternatives. And I remember asking someone that was in a cult, that grew up in a cult, and I'm like, "Do you think that AA is culty?" He was like, "No." I was like, I don't know, man.
Some people don't know really the ins and outs of AA. And there's this girl who grew up in a cult that I've been watching for a while who talks about AA being culty and
Really?
like similar programs being culty. And her name is Daniela, and she wrote a book called Uncultured, and she grew up in Children of God.
I've heard of, okay, wait. I got to write this down because I couldn't find it again.
It's Daniela Young, I think.
I saw her on Threads or Instagram.
Yeah, she's all over Instagram, and she does a lot of lives. She also and on YouTube, she's called the Knitting Lady or something like that. I can't remember because she knits all the time. Even when she's talking, it's like her stem and like the way that she like. Well, I mean, everybody needs something to make them feel better when they have PTSD.
I mean, I'll tell you what, at least it's something. I like puzzles. Okay.
Yeah, her story is crazy because she also lived outside of the country for a while, which is a typical thing with like cults. They'll like send like certain people and certain families to like South America is like a popular spot.
Like Jonestown?
Yeah, Jonestown did that. Or was it Africa? I can't remember now where they went. And I just watched that documentary too that went over like extra stuff with him. I can't remember.
I don't know.
I knew that it was just somewhere far away because he was trying to like sequester his people. And I think he was kicked out of wasn't he technically kicked out of America or something?
I don't know how it really went, but like kind of. But the thing is when you watch it, the thing that looks like he was doing the right thing is he was mixing the races. I mean, I don't mean mixing the races. I mean, like he was emboldening, people to not care about skin color, which is great at that.
Yeah, because a lot of these cults, they are largely white.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I didn't really think about that. That's
I feel like Scientology didn't start really incorporating other races until the 90s, and they partnered with the Nation of Islam.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I think a lot of even religious institutions will do like the optics to make it look like they do stuff or it's for everybody. Everybody's welcome, but they really aren't.
Yeah, I totally understand that. The weird thing about AA is because it's like they have every kind of, there's no leaders. So they kind of try to combat everything, that would make it maybe a cult in that. But it turns out there's like AA speak. There's a fear of leaving. Don't they have like some sort of like disconnection type of thing going on? Like they encourage you to break away from your family members? No, but they encourage you to do that with anybody that's using. But they also, it's a weird thing because
I haven't looked into it like very hardcore, but when I was looking into support groups for when I stopped drinking, that came up on my list, but I was looking for places that were non-religious. And there's a lot of different recovery programs out there now, which is great because you don't have to rely on like the typical AA. Like that has just become so mainstream. People think that all recovery places are AA.
A lot of them, unfortunately, are so much like that, but they're coming out with more now. And the one I just worked at was phenomenal because it was like that, to where it's more scientific.
And
let's be real here. They're saying it's a spiritual solution in AA, not a scientific one.
Yeah, that's weird. So with your recovery, did you had a sponsor, right? You do that?
Yeah.
And
it's like
how did yours go down? Like when you were getting sober, how did yours go down?
So I got really into it, but only because of my ego, because I wanted to be the one in the rooms that would share and have really good sounding shares. And I wanted to, it was out of pure ego, which the program is supposed to combat through the steps to deflate our ego, because ego keeps us sick. Yes. Yes. It's there's a point. Okay. But there's a lot of narcissism and a lot of ego in those rooms. And I just couldn't take it after a while. After I had relapsed and came back, and I was like, you don't know what the frick you don't know what you're talking about. Like, people are different because they believe it's like a cookie cutter thing. And I'm like, it's not. There's other ways to get sober. I've seen a lot of people it's called spontaneous, maybe spontaneous remission, where they just stop using. And it's like 70% of people. And so like they're not being honest about that. They don't say that, it's like they're very olden days. Like everything's the same as back in the day. It's kept original,
And when you're working with clients, do you incorporate like their support system and like their family members and stuff?
Oh yeah, the most. Yeah. They're really big on family members, which it's most important, because I think it does affect the whole family so severely, in that it is a big deal of whether you're in your sobriety too, of your family and how they interact with you about it. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just so many different dynamics at play with the family, that it's almost like they have to go to treatment too. Like they need some kind of, because think about it. They've been like used and abused by an addict. I mean, that is what we do as addicts, is we put our family through the ringer, and it's really unfair. And then we expect them to not be mad at us anymore once we get sober. And how dare you still be mad at me? They have every right to still be mad. And it's kind of traumatic. Think about, it reminds me of putting someone through like a narcissist relation, like a narcissism relationship. Holy cow. Because essentially, like, aren't you kind of acting like that? The selfishness, and ultimately picking, but there I go again, saying ultimately picking drugs over that. I don't know. So I just think that it affects the family more than we need to like really understand the effects that we have on them. And like us recovering, at like people in recovery.
Because I had no problem at like giving my mom boundaries.
Yeah, that's good.
Like I would tell her, if you come over and I suspect you're on something, I will kick you out of this house myself.
That's great that you did that. That's the best thing you could have done.
But I mean, she still had, and it kind of sucked too, because anytime like she was visiting my like basically after I moved, anytime that we visited each other, she'd have to come to my grandmother's house because I would be staying there. So it's like, at the time she was 8 hours away. So she would get on a bus and then come up there, and I'd have to beg my grandmother, please let my mom just stay here. She doesn't have any money. I want to see my mother. You guys need to start trying to like repair this. unfortunately, they never repaired anything, and I didn't get to either. But I think towards the end, we had better conversations, and we had one really amazing visit where she actually listened to me and stayed sober the whole time.
That's great.
And it was a Mother's Day weekend. So the last time I ever saw her, because I like went to my grandmother and I was like, I want to see both of you on Mother's Day, so you're gonna get along.
That's cool though.
So I'm glad that we had like one last really good visit where it wasn't where nobody like got upset or started yelling or, you know, crying or anything.
That's important. I'm glad you had that. That's
a
good memory.
But yeah, it's very difficult having contempt and resentment and compassion all at once for the same person. Because also she had a seizure disorder, and she also, which could have been drug induced.
Yeah.
Because like my grandmother said she didn't have seizures prior to having drugs.
Oh yeah, it could totally.
So I think she started having a seizure disorder after using, and
withdrawal especially is when most of the time the seizures are like.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
So then that makes sense, because I remember she was living with us at the time and I was like in middle school, and she was really sick, but I think it was withdrawals, and she collapsed in the bathroom, and it was the first time I ever saw a person ever have a seizure.
Oh yeah.
And my grandmother was not nice about any of it. And it was so traumatizing to me, because I was like, why are you not calling 911 right now? Like, what is happening? What is going on? And like, she was just going up to her and like kicking her and going, wake up, Sharon, wake up. And I'm like, she's having a seizure. Like, what are you doing? Like, call 911. And she was just like, I don't know. It was very traumatizing, because I was a child. My mom is like having a seizure and my grandmother is pissed off about it.
Right. So it sounds like, see, that sucks though, that you had to be in that position.
They pitted me in the middle of
it.
My grandmother used me a lot in the middle of their fights.
Oh.
Like, she wanted, our family was very toxic, very traumatized family members who were not healed at all.
Yeah.
So when you have generational trauma and then you have other things in the mix, like addiction or something else that, you know, is on top of all the trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened for like,
I see it as like a Coke bottle. Like, the more you shake it up, the more pressure is building. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know what kind of trauma my grandfather had, but I knew what my grandmother went through, and she ended up being homeless at 16. So I always had compassion for her and what she went through, even though she was extraordinarily abusive to me.
Your grandma was?
Yes.
Oh.
So my household was just like nothing but chaos at all times. Whether it was like me and my grandmother fighting or my grandmother and my mom fighting. There were times where I'm just like, they're fighting. All right, I'm just going to walk out the door, and nobody would notice that I was gone. And I'm like, I would just be standing in the room like, guys, stop fighting. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye. Like, and when I say fighting, I mean like yelling, screaming. It was a throw things household, slapping. And like watching my grandmother just slap around my mom was not fun. So yeah, it was just a lot of chaos in general.
Dramatic for you. Like, yeah, you have every right to feel the way you feel too. You know? Is it hard for you to forgive? Do you have a difficult time with that? Is that what you're saying with resentment or contempt?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
I also don't, and I don't know if this is like me being like, since I'm autistic, if that's why I don't understand the concept of forgiveness. Like, I've had people try to explain forgiveness to me. And people, you know, it seems to me that like forgiveness is about yourself. Like you're
Mhm.
actively like more like letting it go. So I guess I can like let some things go,
Yeah.
but yeah. I'm 43 and I'm like healing in a way that is really good for me, but there's still a lot of crap.
You
To sift
talk about
through.
it very well, like the way that it's organized, your organized thoughts and, you know, everything. Sorry, the cat is by my feet. But I think that forgiveness is such a difficult concept to begin with for anybody. So I don't know. I mean, it's difficult for me because it's like forgiveness to me is not having a resentment, which is difficult. So it means it's not affecting me in the current moment, but because it's like we're trapped, we're a prisoner to something that happened, or somebody did something to us a while ago or just recently even. And once you get through that and some time has passed, we can hold on to it. And if we do, we can become extremely sick. And that's where I think that it's important to forgive because of the sickness part. And I went through that recently, like just, and it made me sick, like not forgiving and not, and holding on to anger and contempt and all of that and resentment, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel like I have let some things go, but unfortunately, I think there's just going to be some things that will never leave me fully.
Probably.
And I honestly feel like a lot of it has to do with not having any kind of closure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I feel bad that the last time I talked to my mom, I was mad at her. Well, I wasn't mad at her. I was just annoyed because she can be annoying.
Yeah.
Like she would just talk too much and I'm like, hey, I have to go. Get off my phone.
Of course.
And so like the last conversation we had, it wasn't terrible, but I was annoyed with her. And I was like, yeah, fine. I love you too, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hear from her ever again. So that has always kind of stuck with me because I wish that I had been a little bit nicer, maybe, or I don't know.
You didn't know, and you were reacting exactly how you were reacting due to what you've been through. I mean,
and with my dad, he ultimately died of COPD.
Oh no.
Not the alcohol, but he was a very sluggish, disabled person, which I think is a lot of it has to do with alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
And he died 2 weeks prior to me going to visit him.
No way. How old were you?
This was back in 2018, 17.
Wow. That's not even that long ago either.
No, 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a trip planned and everything, and then I got word 2 weeks prior.
No wonder this is difficult for you. I mean, for anybody, it would be really difficult. I hope you know that. Like, give yourself some grace in dealing with that. I don't know how I would. I'm being honest. Like that is so difficult. I wouldn't know how to let it go either.
And like my dad was a really nice person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he fucked up early on and just stayed there. Like he never got out of a certain mindset, or maybe, I don't know. I don't even know anything about him is the thing. Like I feel bad that I didn't get a chance to really like get to know my dad very well. Like we had a good relationship, but I was hoping to at least ask him about his like childhood at some point. Like,
yeah.
So I have like all my mom's stories, but I don't really have many stories with my dad, which saddens me because in my adult years, we finally got to have that relationship that I wanted all along.
Wow.
But if anything is like in my family, if anything is going to be fixed, it had to be me doing it. Nobody else picks up a finger in my family. I always have to be the bigger person. So I've always learned to just do the thing, like
be the adult and
be the adult in the room, even though I was constantly being told that I'm a child. And I'm like, well, you're making me not be a child by taking care of your ass.
You had to parent your parents. And I talk about my old coworker, and she had both of her parents, and her dad had died from alcohol like a year or two before. And her mom was getting there too, and was still active, and she would say how disorganized and chaotic her, just like how you were talking about your childhood. And she had so much resentment towards her mom still, but like I went over there to the nursing home with her, and as a witness to them signing, giving over power of attorney for her to her daughter. And so she felt like she had to take care of her still at her age, which I felt so bad, like, but getting to see that side of it, of like, this is how it affects her. She's 30 something years old, and having to take care of her mom, and knowing that she's probably going to die soon due to the alcohol and drugs. I mean, and having that, having the resentments against her, it didn't just go away. So it's kind of like, I don't know how you would even, I know how you would like let it go to have compassion, but I also don't know realistically how you would, in theory, like it sounds great. I don't know how that would realistically happen though. I mean, people have these stories and it sounds great that they're able to overcome that. And that's awesome. I don't know how.
There are times where I look at people and I'm like, you went through all that and you feel fine? What? You got over that?
You have to let everybody is different. I know, but it's like I wouldn't. It's not letting it go and just forgetting it happened. It's remembering. I mean, but it's not like holding on to it and letting it affect you in the present moment. That is so difficult to do. I know.
Yeah. It is, and I think that's maybe why I I've always had a difficult time understanding the concept.
Plus, you quit on you just stopped, right? And like that's, and so you saw that you can stop, like, and so I can imagine that being like part of it, to where thinking, well, my parents didn't freaking stop. And I know that it's possible to, and I know people get sober. And so the thing is too, I have a hard time with that, understanding how some people just never get sober. I don't know what it is, because it's not the kid, it's not the spouse, it's nobody else's fault or problem. They didn't make the addict, they can't make them stop, they can't make them use. There's nothing they can do. But I would feel, I'm honest, I would feel like I had something, like I could have done something, or I would feel like it's my fault. I don't know, or that they're picking drugs over me. And so like that scared me with my kid, thinking like, what is he going to grow up and I'm just going to not, and
some families, they are, I don't know how they could, but I've seen some families be really sneaky and like hide their addiction.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that either.
But with my parents, it was always on the open, and I was always, like, from a very young age, very aware of what was happening and what she was doing to herself.
Really?
I mean, you can get the concept. I mean, I didn't know like about different types of drugs, and didn't know about, the type of drug that she was usually on, which was H.
Oh.
Yeah. No wonder. And so here's a crazy story. I mean, all of my stories are crazy. But one of the things that I feel like I'm very proud of myself for doing, even though I didn't get immediate results was one night she got high on heroin, and it was before she moved to the house that was close to my neighborhood. So she was still kind of a little out in the city.
Mhm.
And at 3:00 in the morning, she decided that she just needed to come see me.
Oh no.
On heroin. Drove to come see me and flipped her van in the neighborhood, like right as she was coming into the neighborhood. And
No.
so I knew that she was in the hospital, and my grandparents were like, you don't need to go there. You don't need to see her. And I was like, yeah, but she needs to see me.
Ooh.
Like, it was weird because like I was angry. My first thought was, how could she like do this to herself?
I would be too.
Instead of like, oh my God, like my mom could have died.
Well, I wouldn't be able to reconcile with it either. And that's the thing. And you would think I would have more compassion because I am one of these, a person that has been on that stuff and used that and been in the same position. But I really am kind of not as, and I don't know if that's wrong or not. I mean, forgiving. I am not forgiving. Like lenient on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I still would get mad, and I still would put strong boundaries. And I'm not saying that's right. I just don't, I theoretically it's probably wrong, and it's wrong to probably say that even as a counselor, but I'm just keeping it real that I would be mad. I would feel that way too. I just know it because I felt like that with my ex-husband, you know, and so, and just like, you know, I'm the same. We're doing the drugs together, and I'm still like, you're a loser. Like, you know, not like you're a loser, but just mad because he's lying to me, even though I know that I'm a liar. It's still the same. So, and I'd still get mad at other addicts when I first got sober, the first couple of years, clients for lying to me. I don't now, and I just like, no, it's normal, but
like with
not everybody's has that experience, you know.
Like with friends of mine who I know are addicts, I put up firm boundaries. Like, I don't always need to tell people the boundaries. I just have like these personal boundaries I set up for myself. And if they're actively using, I won't really talk to them. But I will always, if they go into recovery, I will always be there to like cheerlead them on, and I do care about them, but I can't be close to those people. I have a very real fear of getting close to someone that is using and then them dying.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine that that's going to be very difficult to break that fear, you know.
Because there were quite a few in my like early 20s, like some of my friends are just people in our group.
Yeah.
They died really young because we were being stupid.
See, that's the thing too. It's like, I totally get you. Like, I had to cut off friends that wouldn't stop using, that were in AA with me, and I'm in recovery. My sponsor always said to me, you will get messed up before you help them get sober. And it's very true. We have to protect ourselves, and I don't feel bad about it. I've had so many clients die, so many friends die, so many people in AA die. Like I had a client die like not even that long ago, but she was sober. She died from health issues related to drinking for so long. And it was just so sad because she was finishing the program and totally changed her life around and went from being on the street to like just phenomenal. I just never seen anything like it. The most successful client I probably ever had. And then she died of her waiting for a liver transplant. And so it's like, oh man, it was crazy. But, and then, another old friend of mine died like a week later, I think. It was like really weird. That was like a couple months ago. And so it's always happening. Like, I had, my contacts are since deleted, now by accident. It's like they all got wiped out, but I had all these people in my phone, all their phone numbers that they passed away, and I just couldn't delete them. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I still have my mom's old phone number.
Yeah.
in my phone. I don't know why I can't. It's one of those weird things that I can't explain why I can't get rid of it. I mean,
same with Facebooks and stuff. They're on my Facebook and my messages. I haven't deleted the messages, Facebook messages, you know.
well, currently my mom is in the living room, but this always makes people laugh. You ready for this?
What?
Here's my dad.
What is it?
It's my dad.
What
It's his ashes.
Oh, it is? It's actually his ashes? No way.
It's heavy.
Oh, that's what they put him in?
Yeah.
I've never seen them. I've never seen that. Like,
because I was never sure what I wanted to do with them. So,
Yeah.
and like my mom's are in a nice urn, and I split them with her brother. But like, yeah, I can't put them in the same room. They'll argue.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So instead, my dad just sits under my desk for now.
That's cool. You got to have that though. Like,
yeah, and I was
helps
very, very happy that the dude at the funeral home felt so bad about my family situation because he saw some of like it go down.
Really?
He gave me everything for $500.
Whoa. That's
$500. He felt that bad for me. And like the woman who was working with us was like, I've never seen him give that much of a discount. He must really want to like help you.
That's wild.
Because I'm sitting there arguing with his brother, who I've never met in my entire life.
What? Really?
Yes. Yeah. I come up there. Okay. So
that's wild.
This is sad, but you know, so one of my friends who I had to let go of because of drugs ended up ODing the same week that my dad died. Oh. And so I couldn't be here for her funeral or anything like that. So I went and dealt with my dad, and I get to the funeral home and I'm having a panic attack because everything is just too much for me. Yeah. I don't know how to, like, I'm the type of person that is like, people will think that I'm like strong and like, oh, you're doing it. You're doing so much better than I thought you were going to. And I'm like, no. This is me just like dealing for now. And I'm going to fall apart after.
Yeah.
Like, I can't afford to fall apart right now. Mm-hmm. So I like got through all of like taking out the trash and all of his stuff from his apartment, get to the funeral home with one of his sisters, the only sister that I ever met that I remember that I actually like hung out with, and his brother, who is immediately hostile to me. And I'm having a panic attack, and I apologize. And I say, my friend just died this week too. And now this. And he goes, well, you're here dealing with your dad. Who cares about your friend? And I was like,
wow.
Like inside my head, I was just like screaming. So I ran out of the room and I calmed down and I came back in and I was like, I need you to leave.
Hey.
So I kicked him out of the room. I still allowed him to like have whatever ashes he wanted for my dad, which I could have been a bitch and like not let him do that because I was like, you're not paying for this. I'm sitting here going, I have a GoFundMe because I can't afford any of this, and none of my family's helping me monetarily. Like, not one single fucking person in my family gave me even $5 to deal with my dad's death.
Oh my goodness.
Not one person, not my grandmother, not my uncle, nobody. Not his family. His family wanted nothing to do with anything. That's how much they hate him. They showed up to help me clear out his house, and then they just bounced, and I didn't hear from them ever again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You've really been through it. Holy cow. And then you had to grow up super fast and to deal with that. Like, I hope you know that that's like very difficult stuff that you've done, and give yourself some credit for that.
Thank you.
Seriously.
10 years ago, I would have been hard pressed to be like, say that I'm proud of myself, that I actually am doing good things and I can actually deal with things way better than I used to. Mm-hmm. It's weird, like being able to say, you know what, I am proud of myself too.
That's great. No, that's amazing that you're able to do that now. Seriously. you should be proud of yourself. That's a huge thing to even get through that. And it seems like you've done a lot of healing, probably more than you think you have. I can
Oh
tell you
yeah, I've gone into intensive therapies. Like I'm
great.
right now doing EMDR because because I feel like
Good.
if I'm going to be an advocate, I have to be able to handle my trigger responses in order to do the work.
Ooh.
I mean, there's still occasional times where like I'm modding for a friend in the community and someone's talking about their trauma and I can't, like, especially when it deals with unaliving, I do have a hard time with that subject.
Of course.
Because I've had 3 good friends of mine in the last like few years.
Oh no.
2 of them were in 1 year. And it was because of the pandemic. The pandemic just totally messed people up, especially men.
It was bad. So many people relapsed and died. So many people were depressed. I got really depressed. I relapsed during it. It was bad. It was really bad.
And when you relapsed, did your son see any of it?
Oh no, he wasn't. How old was he? I only relapsed for like a month then. But I was not, I had to leave him with my mom and I knew better than to,
It's still hard though, because he was probably wondering like, well, why is my mom leaving me?
He didn't realize.
Yeah.
So like, I was still like trying to get sober. So I wasn't like totally far gone. I think I would go like a day or two straight, but then I was trying to like stop. But
I'm sure as he ages, you'll find age appropriate ways to tell him about stuff.
Yeah, I told him what I do for a living. I told him that I am also in recovery. I told him about his dad. He's like, when you talk about what's the drug, and I'm like, it's just something that you put in your body and it makes you do not nice things, and it's not good and it's not healthy. And it makes you kind of crazy. And I don't know how else to explain it except that it's bad. And now I'm like very open with him about telling him my fears about like the internet and stuff too, because I let him go on there. Like, I will let you have freedom, but I am going to make sure that like you need to understand that there's people that will come steal you or they want kids, and you need to not talk to anybody on there. And if I catch you, you're getting your whole thing taken. And it's not because I don't love you. It's because I don't trust other people.
I don't think the internet should be for kids.
It's not. He goes on YouTube and I still like, I'm uncomfortable with it. And I said, if I catch you watching, like I can see it though, like on his TV.
Yeah.
So I can like tell in the mirror what he's watching and I'll be like, what is that?
Like, I mean, you can just put parental, like the kids stuff on and it should be fine. I'm glad that like they even have like for Facebook, they have a kids messenger app.
I saw that. I don't know what, I mean.
It means that anything that they say actually goes to you. So it kind of takes away their privacy a little bit, but it means you don't have to look at it. But like I downloaded it for when my friend's kid wanted to talk to people and she added me. Yeah. So the parent still knows, and like the kid can't add anybody without the parent like seeing like who you're adding. I should look more into some of the parental controls that are out there, because I mean I work with preschoolers mostly. I also just like to know what kids are into.
Well, so Silas is in 2nd grade now, and some of the stuff I'm like, I just some of the stuff he says, I'm like, oh my God, you're like a teenager. Where did you hear that? And it's not like bad stuff. It's just like concepts that a mature teenager, or not like an immature teenager, like a mature teenager or whatever, encounters. And it's like, whoa, that's weird. Like he understands a lot of difficult concepts. It's very crazy. I don't know.
I think most kids can, if we sit down and get on their level and talk directly And I will even with the 5-year-olds, if I'm trying to explain a concept, I will stop and ask several times, do you know what this means? And they know to actually stop me and be like, what does such and such word mean? If I'm like talking and they need to know something. So I always try to like stop and make sure, are you following? Does this make sense to you? And I try to put concepts and things into like the kids' terms. Like I'll even use examples from what they like, oh, what if like, you know, Pup did X, you know, I just
he used to like watching all that too. And yeah, so I think that's important because I want to be completely honest. I'm not gonna like tell him the gruesome parts of it, of course, just like I wouldn't tell anybody. I mean, you know, anybody you wouldn't just tell any kid that anyways, you know? So like
but it is crazy at like the things that kids hear or like they pick up and they actually like they may not grasp the whole concept of something, but they're piecing things together. Like this is like a side track to addiction, but in one of my classes, I one time was just talking, like reading to a story to a little girl, and we just started talking. I don't even remember what we were talking about. I think we were talking about like vacation or something. And she was like, oh, like she was talking about her and her parents going on vacation after her little brother couldn't come home. And I was like, and I started asking questions and I was like, well, that's weird. Why can't your little brother come home? Her mom had a miscarriage.
Oh shit. No.
And she actually like kind of understood it. She was like, understood the concept of I was going to have a little brother, but now little brother is in heaven.
Yeah.
Like, and she was talking like in just like plain like terms, not emotional. It was just like
it happened to Silas with his uncle in this past year. My uncle was close with him and was like a father figure, and my mom's brother, and he shot himself and just gone. And Silas was very mature about it. Helped my mom through it. It was wild the way he talked about it, but without emotion sometimes. But like
kids may not understand like what emotion they're even feeling around it.
I wouldn't have either. And I didn't either because I kind of, when people pass, I'm kind of like always, I don't ever like deal with it. I am very matter of fact about it too. I don't know why. It's just because I just never process it or something. I don't know. If it was someone close to me, like I never really, with my uncle, I was upset a little bit, but I don't ever go to funerals. I don't, you know, I just can't do it. But
yeah, some people can. That's okay.
Yeah, I just can't do it. And I don't, it's too much. But yeah, he handled it very well. I was surprised, and he helped my mom through it. My mom was really sad. It was really sad. Yeah.
So I have like one more question, because I feel like we could talk for hours.
Oh.
And I should probably go so I can eat some real food. But one other thing I wanted to know was, how do you deal with your thoughts? Like, do you have intrusive thoughts still with addiction?
Oh, it's different at different times, but not the same kind I used to have. Not the same kind of thoughts. So not intrusive thoughts. I have that more with like depression, with like just thoughts of like bad situations or like that keep reoccurring in my head, or like trauma or something. But not so much the drugs. You know what I mean? My main thing is like, it used to be very intrusive thoughts of like, just go, like, just, you know, and I would keep thinking about the drugs, but eventually it went away. But now I'm more like tricked because of like my addiction, like kind of tricks me. You know what I mean? It's not directly me realizing like, this is what I want to use. It's like kind of a trick. I don't know how to explain it. Just like my mind convinced me that for my mental health, I either am going to hurt myself or I'm going to take these pills and be okay. And then meanwhile, that's me. And then I'm getting high on them. That's eventually what happens. And that's what's happened this past year.
Yeah.
And because I was just so depressed. And that's scary to me because I don't have like the intrusive thoughts of like, and I don't want to get high, you know, I don't.
So it's more of like, if you're in a certain headspace, you'll just think about it.
I don't really think about it. It just like,
is it like a feeling?
It'll happen sometimes by accident. I don't like, just like the pills happened by accident because I was so depressed. I didn't realize that what I was doing. It's like you're in denial. It's really weird. But in the beginning I did have those thoughts. But thank God I don't have any more. I couldn't stay sober if I did. That'd be
really because I think I mentioned this before to you. I mean, mostly when people think of addiction, they think of, you know, drugs, alcohol, right? Those are like the two things that we normally talk about. But there's also other types of addiction because you can like get in unhealthy habits, like even eating disorders become like food addictions. I had a cutting problem. I had a cutting addiction. And I started around age 12. And, you know, got to the point where at 19, I almost died. And
scary.
After that, I knew I needed to kind of stop it, but I knew it wasn't going to stop entirely because I was fine with not trying to force myself to do something cold turkey that I know that I would end up like not.
Where you purge and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I moved, that's when things started like sort of balancing out a little bit. I was doing it less often. And then around 2012-ish, I think I stopped entirely. I think I may have done it one time since 2012. But even when I was slowing down, every time I was depressed or, you know, angry, or I, you know, did something to anger my boyfriend at the time, and he was very good at like getting inside my head and making me feel like everything was my fault. So then I would get down to the, you know, I would go into the bathroom and I'd be like, yeah, I deserve this. I deserve this. And the thoughts are just swirling in my head. And I have to like be aware enough to be like, okay, nope, I got to block that thought. I'm not going to do this. Even though the thought is there, I can just ignore it. I got to ignore it. So that's why I was like, did you still have like intrusive thoughts? Because it's like, it feels like a little nagging like thing. Yeah. Like, hey,
it'll go away. I'm sure it'll go away. Because, no, I don't have it like that anymore, but I have it like with the emotions and stuff, like the constant thoughts, negative thoughts, automatic negative thoughts that happen. And then I have to be like, skirt, slow down. Okay. You're making yourself sick, Lindsay. Like, calm down. Like, nothing's happening. Cause like I will go into like, I will just like start like, and I'll make myself like stay in it, or I don't know. It's just, I can like egg myself on, or I can make myself stop. It's almost like a drug sometimes.
And one of the things that I try and like tell my friends who are using, when they feel like they're not in control, I just remind them like, no, you're in more control than you think you do.
Yeah.
Than you think you are. Like our brain does a really good job at like clouding your thoughts so much.
But just tell them you just take it one step at a time, and all you have to do is just know, just stop. But you're gonna have to, you have to make that decision and let yourself go through the sickness or whatever and withdrawal, and if we have to have hope, I think, and that's the only way we can really do it. Like if you didn't think it was possible to stop doing that, it would have been really hard to stop doing it. You've been like, oh, I can't stop doing this, but that's the thing with like addiction. I never thought I'd be able to stop because it was so hard for me. But I knew, after relapse that, oh, it's totally possible. I just have to stop and do like what I did before and detox. But I need to stop myself. I don't need the jail to stop me. And I was able to. So that's kind of like my idea is like, well, did God do that or did I do that?
No, it was you.
Like, I feel like I did it. I'm just saying, like, I understand the concept and people want to say, well, God did it. Well, I mean, then I guess did God likes me more or something? I don't know. Right.
Also, the thing I think we need to remember is most people who get addicted to substances are traumatized.
Yes. And they're in some type of pain.
Mm-hmm. And so you can't expect someone to get better without treating the pain.
Exactly. Because
in a healthy manner.
Right. Alcohol and drugs are not the problem. They're our solution for what's going on, like in here and feel what we're feeling, just like I consider all addictions the same. Like, I don't care what substances it is. I don't think one's worse than the other. It's just, I'll use something different at different times when I was using, and I have to be careful now because I'll start with the eating stuff. And now, like, I have a good balance on everything, but like I said, like, my mental health I have to keep my mental health good. So then, because then I'm dual diagnosis. So then if I don't keep my mental health good, then the using becomes, it's self-medicating.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. Like, I started drinking again under the, under the feels of, I have this under control. I don't need to be scared of it. But there was one night that I almost got scared of it. And then I was like, I'm making myself be scared. Like, I don't need to be scared to just take one drink. Like, it was one night where I was having so much social anxiety that I was like, I need a second one. I need a second one. And I was like, wait, no, I don't. What am I doing? No, I don't. I don't need a second one. I can barely finish one drink.
Oh, see, that's amazing that you could do that. I can't just moderately drink or anything. So that's kind of like, oh, it's kind of sad.
Well, I guess because I was like, I didn't have any alcohol for like 8-9 years.
Wow.
And so I just started with like sipping Peoples just to taste it. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me get a White Claw. Let me see what this is all about. I can't even drink like a full drink because everything tastes so much stronger.
It is strong.
It probably is.
That stuff is pretty strong, I hear. Like
White Claw.
All this new stuff. I don't even know what it is. Like, I never had it.
I even tried to like drink a whole glass of wine and I couldn't even get through a whole glass of wine. That used to be my like drink of choice, was always wine.
Oh, I would just grab a bottle. Like, I don't know what there is. I'm just like, just give me the vodka. I don't know. I'm in Gatorade in the other hand, and that's what I do. And I drink alone. And
there were kids in my high school that would come to school like that. They would like fill up vodka in like their Gatorade or something and sneak around with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that more with like pills and stuff when I was.
I do wonder sometimes where those people ended up.
Probably not in a good place, because that's like very alcoholic.
Yeah, when you're starting like that young and you're like drunk in school.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, no, I always felt bad for the kids that I knew that were like that so young. And I was just like, oh man, I wonder what you're going to do with your life. Yeah. Like, and that's the way I look at my mom. I'm like, there was so much potential there. She was a good singer. She could play guitar. Like, she was in sports. And it's so awful to see someone have so much potential and then kind of just throw it away.
Yeah, it is. It's tough.
And then never think that you can get better. Like she just always, like she would call me. This is another thing that your friend said, that like I said something about the constant calling me of going, oh my God, I feel so bad. I was such a terrible mother. I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
bad. I'm so sorry. Like constantly apologizing to me. And I'm
Really?
like, and I was like, dude, I'm an adult now. Like, stop.
Wow.
Like, please stop apologizing to me. I get it. I know that you feel bad. Yes, you were a bad mother, but we can move forward.
You're so
Like
funny.
I was always trying to like, again, be the parent. Like, come
Yeah.
on, calm down.
You're used to it.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
don't
fair
know if
to
it's
you,
good to be used to it,
but
but it was just, that was my life.
yeah, it's not fair and it's unfortunate. And the one good thing is that you're not using now. I mean,
You as well.
yeah.
And and like, I don't have kids. And if I ever have kids, it's going to be foster kids.
That's pretty cool.
So I don't know what that part is like, but I feel like I knew kind of what my mom's thoughts were, like always being scared to like disappoint me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can probably get a pretty good idea just from,
yeah.
I mean, you were in that relationship, you know? See,
I'm
sure
like, you get scared that you're going to let him down.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm scared of being a bad mom. So I'm extremely triggered when people say comments and things. Just like the other day, I noticed a comment about me on a website. And I'm like, about my parenting. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
This is a nice comment that we can end on.
I know that I was kind of joking because everyone will say it's God, and that's who I credit to, and I gotta give myself credit. You know, my higher power, which is like the universe, helped me in a way. Like, but I don't think God was just like, now you get to be sober. I think I had to say, it stops now. Like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have stopped. Why would I just stop? It's not magical.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm proud of you. I'm glad that I'm getting to know you, because
you're doing extremely well. Like, I hope you know that. Like, you're really far along in your recovery. For real.
Don't make me cry.
Really good. I can tell you've really done the work. And you're doing EMDR now. That's great.
Yeah, I have put the work in because I knew that I didn't want to feel like crap the rest of my life.
Right. You're going to reap the rewards. That's cool.
And yeah, and I knew that like if nobody else in my family had the strength to get better, I'm going to, and prove all of them wrong. Because the thing that I've always noticed, and I don't know if they meant to do this to me, was the optics of I'm an extension of my mother. Ooh. So therefore, I'm like her. They know I'm not, but I get put in that box, and I get contentment. I get, I don't know.
I know what you mean. But you know what? You have a unique story. You have a unique, you're in a unique position because of your story, because of what you went through and how you're healing, to be able to help others in that position or a similar position that you can help in a way that I can't help, you know, because you know how it feels to be a family member. I have a more difficult time with the family members because I'm like, oh, like it's terrible. I feel like I know, you know.
But you also went through some stuff with your dad, so you kind of do have somewhat of a perception of that.
Yeah, so I do, but as opposed to, this is what I had said to my other friend too. She had a great grasp on it and was able to really help others. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's what this podcast is about. It's about getting together and healing together.
Connecting. Connecting. Because it's like, seriously, this is the best part of my day. Like, you asked me to do that. I was really excited, you know, to just come on and talk. It's the highlight of my day, you know?
Hi, Rika. Well, with all that being said,
thank you.
I am glad that you came on here. I'm glad that we had this talk. I think these are very important conversations to have so we can understand and be more supportive towards people that have addiction, but also understanding what happens to friends and family members, people who are close to these people. And I believe that everybody needs support. Even if a family member can't give it, we have to figure out how to get these people support so they don't feel so broken and lost that they feel like they can't ever get better.
Yeah. Got to give them hope. I mean, that's really why I started my YouTube, is to say, hey, if I can go this low and have hope and get better, or go back down and get back up, you can do it. You know, there's hope. So
yes, Rika, you'll have to watch the replay. Cool. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to those on the replay crew. Yeah, and so what I like to end all of my episodes of anything I do is I say, stay safe and stay hydrated. So what would be your parting phrase?
Love one another.
Love one another. I love it. Hug someone you love, pet a cat or a dog.
Connect with someone.
Always be kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Nice to meet you all.
And this will be not the last time you see Lindsay. And one more time, let everybody know where to find you.
Recover from Addiction. So it's youtube.com/@recoverfromaddiction.
And the link is also in the description. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.